The first day we were in Kiev and conducted a few interviews in Kiev, and we were working actually with Anatoly Kerzhner, who is a local Yiddish enthusiast in Ukraine, a young fellow who was working with us in Kiev. And we went to the synagogue there and interviewed a few people and conducted very long interviews, and we're very excited that we could find some Yiddish speakers in Kiev. But we were actually anxious to get out of Kiev as well and to go back to smaller towns. Our goal was really to interview people in small towns who were born in the same town, or who were living in the same town that they were born in. I guess for linguistic reasons, that way you can really map what type of Yiddish you're interviewing in. And also for the oral history purposes, it makes sense to interview people about the local history of the town that they're actually living in. So from Kiev, after a couple of days in Kiev, we went to Zhytomyr, and Zhytomyr also has a very lively Jewish culture, relatively speaking. So we went to the synagogue there, and were able to interview people, and then went to smaller towns, to Shargorod, to Bershad. I think we went to Tulchin that first visit, to Nemirov, Zmerinka, and it's a whole new world. I was amazed that there are still Yiddish speakers in these regions. I hadn't imagined that there were that many people still speaking Yiddish. And in places like Shargorod, even in 2002, there were still streets that were Jewish streets, where the majority of the residents living in the streets were Jewish, and they all spoke Yiddish. And there were even some young people who were speaking Yiddish and were very happy to speak to us. I was amazed at how willing people were to share their stories with us. I'd imagined it was going to be a lot more difficult to elicit information from them. I had these visions of people being afraid of outsiders, and particularly growing up in the Soviet Union, talking about Jewish life. But that wasn't the case, actually. Everybody was very eager to share their stories with us, and to share their stories with us on videotape as well. So I think the first time we went, it was for maybe 10 days, maybe 12 days. It was a short period of time, but it immediately became apparent to us that this was something we could do on multiple occasions, and we could keep going back. So we applied for some funding and got from the National Endowment for Humanities, we got enough funding to keep going back, and the AHEYM Foundation also gave us some funding, and we were able to continue going back year after year, and then eventually expanded from that core region of Podolia, what was Transnistria during the war, was the area that we were focusing on in that initial period. We were able to expand in it into Volhynia, and eventually into Transcarpathia, and then into Moldova and Hungary, Slovakia, and these other regions.